I want to circle back to your starting off point, because once again, sometimes you say things that are great and you don't belabor them enough, and so I have to do it for you.
Thank you. Appreciate
that. You made this point about Aikman's disappointment and how he didn't have the second half of the career that he should have had. And I guarantee you, Troy Aikman is sitting there going, hey, me and Jimmy Johnson would have been Belichick and Brady before Belichick and Brady. And we had all the pieces in place, and we could have won 6 Super Bowls. And Jerry and the Cowboys would have been first, and people wouldn't be so stuck. Take a Warren Sapp or others that like to undermine Troy Aikman based on statistics. Because Troy Aikman said, hey, man, I was playing a different game.
Yeah.
Did I have the talent to go play quarterback somewhere where I could put up bigger numbers? But no, I was playing a different game in Dallas. We were playing for championships and titles. I played my role based off the strengths that we had, offensive line, Emmitt Smith, Jay Novacek, obviously, Michael Irvin, most obviously. And I was playing for victories, not individual stats. And Jerry took it all for granted and said, hey, anybody can get in here and do this. I'm the mastermind. And Troy Aikman's like, nah, man, I should have been Tom Brady, the original GOAT.
Yeah.
And Troy and Tom Brady would be chasing me, right? Or, would have had to catch me as it relates to Super Bowl titles.
Jason, Troy Aikman has said that the dynamic that he had with Sheriff Jimmy Johnson, where he was the head deputy, was great. And they had a certain chemistry. Now, they didn't get off to a great start in the beginning. I mean, he was the number 1 pick in '89, and I'm not even so sure Jimmy drafted him. I think Gil Brandt was still in charge of that draft. But what really got their relationship sideways is, if you remember, Jimmy not only had Troy Aikman coming in, he drafted Steve Walsh, his college quarterback, in Miami in the supplemental draft. So there was a year or two where they did not see eye to eye, but eventually they ironed it out. They got him Norv Turner, who may have been the most important coach of his career. So Troy Aikman has basically said, I loved having Jimmy because I love structure and discipline. And this is the part that he loved. When Jimmy would scream at a guy and get on his case, I could be the good guy and be the teammate that say, come here, don't worry about Jimmy. I got this. And every player kind of respected Troy as the guy they could lean on. He understands it. What a great guy. He said, as soon as Jimmy left and I had to be the adult for Barry Switzer, I became the bad guy. And it wasn't fun and it wore on me. And then as the talent thinned around him, he started getting hurt more and more. He's actually said, as fulfilling as the first half of my career was, my second half of my career was equally as frustrating, and to this day, I still think it bothers Troy.
Hey, help me out here. Help my memory out. Deion arrives in 1995 to Dallas.
95, yes.
And he leaves after 1999.
Yes.
How many Super Bowls does that give Deion with Dallas?
One. He won 1 in 95, and they never were really a great team again. That was it.
And so, what he's arguing is we brought in Barry Switzer and we brought in Deion Sanders, and yes, we got a Super Bowl, but all the chaos that went along with Barry Switzer and Deion Sanders ruined. And so I think you could probably make a pretty good argument that Aikman is completely against Deion Sanders coming in as head coach.
Jason, there have been books that have insinuated that Deion and Troy butted heads. Because if you know anything about Troy Aikman, he's very structured. He is about precision and timing. That's his game. He liked the discipline. He liked tough practices. Deion's a little bit looser, okay? And so there were some issues, and I've watched America's Game on NFL Network about that 95 team. That team won in spite of itself. Daryl Johnson says it all the time that one of the coaches came up to him and said, I want to congratulate you guys on this. He goes, oh, thanks for the Super Bowl. He says, no, overcoming us. It's when you look at Deion Sanders, I'm not saying he didn't work hard. He actually did prepare. But the way he led the players, it was not in terms of being disciplined. There's a great Troy Aikman story. So Troy one day is at practice and he sees Michael Irvin come in with the whole wide receiver room and a bunch of other guys coming in from the club. And you could probably guess what type of club. And it was early in the morning. They're all trudging in. And Troy looks over at Barry. He goes, Barry, do you see this? Like, what are you going to do about it? And Barry Switzer goes, well, hell, Troy, you want me to cut Michael Irvin? And Troy had one of the great lines. He said, no. Cut that guy, and that guy around Michael Irvin. So this is actually a true story. That practice begins that day early in the morning and everyone's hung over. 10 minutes in, Barry Switzer goes, you know what, guys? I don't know. It's kind of hot out here. You're not into it. You know what? Let's take the day off. And Troy Aikman seethed. That was not what he was brought up in. That's not what he thought was championship football. So, yes, that was all part of that culture that existed post Jimmy Johnson.
This is fascinating, and I'm so glad you took me here. But, I mean, seriously, Deion is there from 95 to 99. He's there.
Right.
I'm sure they're Troy Aikman's last, these years that Troy Aikman's talking about, these lost years. They brought Deion in, and Deion got a lot of credit for that 95 Super Bowl. He played 9 games that season, 9 regular season games that season. I'm sure he got a lot of credit for, hey, he won a Super Bowl in San Francisco. He switched teams the next year, and Dallas wins the Super Bowl. But what people are saying is like, hey, man, we did that in spite of all the chaos that was going on with the team. And we should have won that even easier if we weren't involved in so much chaos. And so Aikman is looking at like, well, Jerry Jones is about to do it all over again. He brought Deion Sanders in 30 years ago, learned nothing from that experience, and is about to do it again. And the media, we're not going to cover it. We're not going to talk about it. We're not going, no one's going to take an evaluation like, oh, yeah, Deion's this great player. And yes, he was involved with 2 Super Bowls, but he was a guy that jumped around from team to team and brought chaos with him pretty much everywhere he went. He's not Ray Lewis. He's not Ed Reed. He's not Tom Brady. He's not Aikman or Emmitt Smith, someone that brought great stability to an organization and allowed you to win year after year after year. He's a carnival show that raises attention about himself and cashes out or moves on once things totally turn into chaos. And he left Jackson State after 2.5 years. Looks like he's going to leave Colorado after 2 years. And all the sycophants in the media are going, oh, Colorado should just thank Deion Sanders. I mean, those 2 years he spent there. But the job won't be complete, and he would have left. And people forget, that Jackson State, he lost that bowl game or the Black National Championship game or whatever. He lost that at the end. Deion, this is fascinating. And what Troy Aikman's pointing out here, again, just makes this story even more and more interesting. Don't miss a second of Fearless. Hit that like button and subscribe to keep up with our latest content.